Max Volts here for the 2006 to 2011 Honda Civic Hybrid Grid Charger Harness Installation Guide. First of all, we're going to have a number of tools that you're going to need for the job, starting with the 10mm ratchet and socket would be my preference. I use a Ryobi power drill impact that helps speed the process up. Mine's on an extension with a swivel socket at the end here, but you can use a standard 10mm socket for most of it, probably all of it. I just find this to be easier and more nimble to get into those hard to reach places. Outside of that, for the IMA cover, you're going to need a Torx T30 specialty bit here, and I wouldn't get the security one with a hole in it like this one. This is a bad example because they're not as strong, but the solid ones, the T30, will give you access to those IMA cover bolts that Honda doesn't want you to have a special tool for to get in there. Outside of that, a 12mm socket will be necessary for the retaining bolts on the battery itself. I'm going to have 4 bolts to take off with the 12mm. Whenever working with anything electrical or high voltage especially, having a voltmeter to test these connections before we put our hands on them is definitely something that you're going to want to have. And for the insurance of $5, $6, $7 from Harbor Freight, you can have the insurance in knowing that what you're putting your hands on is not have any high voltage left in it. You definitely don't want to get in that situation. And for the charging port itself, the installation of that, mainly you would need a step bit, and this would we would use this down to the 1-inch setting, and that will get us the port where we can install our port with the correct size hole. So let's get to it here. First step of the process here would be to remove the headrest, and on the right of the headrest there's a lever that you can depress, and that will let you eject the headrest out of the seats. Nothing to it. While you're over here, I would take this seat belt and slip it out of that little holster there so it's nice and free. Then we get down to the bottom here, and where these seat belts are, inside of the cracks of these seats, there's a 10mm bolt on each side. We're going to get in there with our socket. If you're using a hand socket, you might need some kind of extension to make it a little easier, but you take those bolts out, and that will just leave the hinges on the front of the seat here. There's some little clips here that if you grab a hold of each side of the front of the seat here and pull straight up, it will unlock from the seat, and you'll be able to move the bottom of the seat out of the car here. Be careful on the bottom here where those metal hinges are. You don't want to scratch the paint on the car, so be careful moving that on the way out. I flipped mine over so I can't scratch the car. Alright, once you have that out, you'll have some more 10mm bolts on each side of the car here. See if I can get that on camera here. Right down in the corner here, there will be a 10mm bolt and one on the opposite side. You're going to want to go ahead and take those out of there. Okay, with those bolts removed, we'll go ahead and grab a hold of this seat here. I'm going to climb up here on where the rear seat used to be, and we're going to pull straight up, because the way this back of the seat goes in, it's straight back and it slides down and locks into place. There's some hooks that go into some grooves. So I'm gonna stand up on here, and I'm gonna lift straight up. And once you've lifted it high enough, it will pull forward here, and you'll be able to take these seat belts that you took loose here and bring those over the side of the seat. One more on this side. once you have all of those loose, you'll be able to move the seat out of the car here and go ahead and same applies. Just careful not to scratch the paint with that. I'm going to go ahead and flip this over and show you some of these danger points here that'll definitely do some damage to your paint, so be careful with that. If you flip it over here, the top of the seat is really safe, and that'll keep you from scratching the paint on the way out. Alright, we're going to grab this middle seat belt here. We're going to try to maneuver it out of the way by bringing it around the side of the IMA box. This one seems to sit in there real nice now, so we'll go ahead and leave it where it is, so we'll have access to this back panel cover. The next step will be still with the 10mm. There's a 2-bolt panel switch in here. We're going to remove these 2 bolts. Once you have those bolts out, just peel back this cover here, and you'll see the IMA main breaker switch. You're going to just pull this down to the off position here, and that will start to disconnect and drop the voltage down in the pack and make it a little bit more safe to work with. While we have the 10 still, there's one more bolt in here retaining this cover of the 10mm variety. We're going to go ahead and, while we have this tool, take that one out of here too. Put it with our cover here. Alright, so once we have that done, we're going to move over to our Torx T30 bit. We're going to go ahead and put that on our ratchet, or in this case the drill. Be careful with these bolts, because they can strip out. Make sure you do have it in a counterclockwise reverse setting if you're using a drill. We're going to go ahead and knock these out and place them in the corner so we can take this panel back. We're going to place these bolts in a place that's nice and safe, and we can go ahead and pull this IMA cover back, move that out of the way, careful not to scratch paint. And at this point we've exposed the IMA, what's underneath the cover there, which is the main hybrid battery pack, the battery control module, the motor control module, the air conditioning, electric air conditioning driver, compressor, the DC to DC converter, which this car doesn't have an alternator, so it does step down this high voltage to a more appropriate 14 volts before sending it to the regular car battery under the hood there. So that's how that works. Alright, at this point we're going to get our trusty voltmeter out and set that for the 200 volt setting. We got a positive and a negative lead. We're going to place those on where you see the red and the black here, same colors. And we'll see 0.3 volts it said, and it could be negligible. And it might just be a 0 that's a little bit off, but I'm going to turn this on. I'm not telling you guys to turn this on, but just to get an idea of what it looks like with the switch on. Actually, it won't have voltage at this terminal. On the Honda Civic Generation 2, the connection is actually made at the relay itself there, but making sure there's no voltage here is definitely an extra step that help keep you safe. Alright, at this point we're going to go ahead and remove some of our connections that we're going to need off of here in order to get access to the terminals on this battery pack to make our connections to our harness here. We're going to move over back to the 10 millimeter. In this case, it could be a 10 millimeter socket, a little bit shorter one. We're going to remove the positive and negative terminals here. Again, this battery should be in the off position. It should not move there until you're done with the cover back on the car. Back over the IMA compartment. Go ahead and move these back out of the way. You should be wearing rubber gloves for good measure when working with these electrical connections here. And next would be this orange harness here. There's a little button on the side. You want to push that down and pull out, and this will come apart here. And then there's also a little white harness here at the bottom. I want you to do the same thing, push down and pull that out. And definitely a lot less connections than the Honda Civic first generation, so it's a little easier to work with. Alright, we're going to move on to our 12 millimeter socket, and these 4 bolts here, 1, 2, 3, 4, we're going to be backing those out of there. I'd probably start with the bottoms first, and the tops kind of hold this thing up there. Last one at the top. Alright, so now that we have our battery, all the 4 bolts out of there, we can reach up here with these handles here. We're going to just slightly tug it out a little bit, and you'll hear it drop down here. I'm just going to back it out a little bit until we get to this little teeter-totter point, and we can just rest the battery right there. Be careful that it doesn't fall on you. It's not super heavy, but it's definitely not something you want to be carrying around with you all day. Alright, I'm going to get a different vantage point with the camera so you can better see the connections that we're going to be making, and we'll be back. Alright, we've reached a portion of the install for the actual mounting of the charger port connection. Once this is installed, there's no more getting inside of the pack. You do it once, and once you do that, you'll have an external connection that will allow you to access the charger. You just place the charger on the rear deck. In this particular Civic Hybrid, it's got a long rear deck here that you can fit the charger right up there, give you a visual audio cue, and allow you to see the voltage and amperage display clearly from pretty much anywhere around the car. So this will be where we actually install the port. What we're going to do in this particular car is take a hold of one of these child safety latches. I'm assuming that, yeah, safety anchor, by the picture of the anchor here. We chose this location here over to the left because it was most convenient. And as far as getting these out of here, these little hinges, you can actually just kind of on this model, the 2006 Plus, you can just rock them to the side and they pop right out. Careful not to break these little legs on here. But once you have that out, you can go ahead and take your step drill. The drill bit is available from Harbor Freight for about $3 or $4, and you go ahead and pilot a hole into there all the way to the 1 inch mark on there, and that will be your mounting point for that. I'm going to go ahead and pop this one out and give you a reference for comparison purpose. So when you're go ahead and drilling yours, you can use that as a reference, and know that like right in there is where you want to start that. And of course, this is assuming that you want to mount that charging port in this location. I mean, you can put it in the trunk. There's a good amount of slack with our harnesses to allow you to put it in a couple of different places, but we found this to be most convenient. Once the headrest is in here, you don't even see it, and it's of OEM type finish at that point. But yeah, so once you're done drilling out the hole for the harness there, and we provide these screws here. When we ship these out, we have some hot melt glue on the backs of the screws here just to hold them in place. They could easily be popped out of there when it comes time to install it. When you do, make sure you grab this strap here. There's an eyelet in the strap, and go ahead and use one of those screw holes for the dust cover cap. And any one of those four would work. We just chose this one. Alright, so when you have your harness, this one's already been installed, but we'll just reverse it on out of here and start anew. Easy as pie. Alright, you'll have your positive and your negative leads, and you want to come in through the back side of this little hook here and pull this through like so, and just lock it into place like that. And then you can take your slack over top of this hole here, and if you want to get these kind of biased towards a little bit of a curl here, that will help you to grab them down underneath and pull them through. Careful not to get hung up on your fuse housing there. Alright, let's take up the slack in the harness here. And once you have that, you can do the same thing and bias it towards a little bit of a curl. I'm going to go ahead and go behind this metal piece here, and you should see it poke out here in the corner. Make sure we get that on video here. You want to bend it around the corner here, catch it right here in the edge, and we'll just pull that through. The fuse likes to get hung up a little bit. It's a little bigger than the wire, so just be careful with that. So now you pulled it through. Let me get a little bit better vantage point to this point. And you're just going to go around here, and there's a harness, a main harness, in which you a lot of the wiring from the car comes through into the IMA pack. We're just going to go around the back here, underneath, and under there, right underneath that wiring loom. Alright, and then we're going to take our positive and negative lead and go straight through here and fish it through. If you hear it get hung up or stop along the way, then back it out again. And try it again. Try to get these positive and negatives together so they're all going to the same place. I see it over here. You can reach around this pack here and grab it over here, pull it through. Make sure to fish this through here, help it along. And we'll be right where we need to be, unobstructed and ready to install the positive and negative leads, which is going to be covered in the next chapter of our video. Okay, here I got another vantage point here, let you to see the connections that we're going to get access to here. On the Honda Civic Hybrid Generation 2 here, the live points of voltage when the car is not running and the key is not to the on position. It's actually going to be right off of this relay here. There's a couple different versions and variations of this pack, and over the years people have got them replaced under warranty and whatnot. And what happens under warranty is they take your pack in and they rebuild it and make it into someone else's. They send it off and they have it a third party redo the pack with used cells and try to balance it, and we're not going to need that. But my point is that there's different versions of the top and connections here. So if yours doesn't look exactly like this, then send us a picture or email us, and we'll help you get the right connections for that particular pack. There's probably 6 or 7 versions that we know of from pack to pack, and we'll definitely help you out there. On this particular one, negative is going to be right here off of this relay terminal, and positive is just going to be positive as it would be looking at the front of the pack here. If you're super careful, you can actually turn the pack on, put your connection negative there, positive on positive, and you'll be able to see that you're in the correct place for your voltage. 177.2 on this particular pack, and there's no minus sign before it, so you know you got the polarity correct. If for whatever reason you're trying to find the contact points and you're guessing here and here, and you see this negative 177, you know that you got the polarity reversed, and negative is going to be where you just were with the red. So least amount of time you can spend under the switch being on, the better. When you're done with the switch off, make sure you check that contact voltage again and make sure that pack is safe to touch. Definitely should be wearing rubber gloves when working on the pack here. Alright, with that said, I did lie, and there is a Phillips head screwdriver required with this installation on this particular 2006 to 2011. The way that this top is set up, we're going to be using a screw contact point, so you will need a Phillips head appropriate for the type of screw head that's here. There are a number of different Phillips head screwdriver heads, and make sure you're just not grabbing a random screwdriver that's going to be loose in the connection there. I mean, there's different sizes, and finding the correct size that fits in there perfectly is going to be what you're going to want to do, because if you strip these screws out, it's going to be a lot more difficult for you to get the pack back in the car and your harness installed, of course. Alright, well, I already know that this screwdriver is going to work for this installation. This is part of a kit. I forgot who makes this. I think it's 3M from Walmart, and it is a part of an electronics connector kit, and it is insulated down the shaft here, and that will be the type of screwdriver you're going to want to use for this particular case. So if you can get your hands on an insulated one like that, you don't want to be putting metal across the positive and negative. Even though the pack is off, that is definitely not something that you should be doing. So if you can get an insulated screwdriver like this, that would definitely be my vote for how to do this safely. But assuming that we have the wiring harness itself strung through the IMA pack already, which is covered in another part of the video here, we're going to be left with our positive and negative connections with the eyelets at the end here. On this negative connection here, we're going to go ahead and loosen that up here, making sure not to drop the screw in there. So keep some positive pressure on that screw until you're able to get in there and pull that screw out. That's going to be our negative connection at the top of that screw terminal here. We're going to place it in there, put some pressure behind it, and try to maneuver this thing into place. And once you got that in there, careful not to cross thread this. Just slide it into place and try to get these threads started here. Looks like it just dropped into where it was supposed to drop in. Alright, keep that wire from getting all bent up against the side here. It should be able to remain straight. We're going to tighten this up here. Alright, that's the negative here. On the positive, this is going to be the screw that we're using here. This has been on and off a number of times for this video and the harness here, so it's the screw head itself is getting a little weathered, but yours should look a lot better condition than this one. Alright, we're going to back out this positive screw here. Should be easy to keep a hold of, and we're going to put that screw through this eyelet. And if you have any questions about which one's positive and negative, probably shouldn't be working on the back in the first place. Positive is going to be red, negative is going to be black, and the positive is going to have a fuse in line with it as well. So we're going to go ahead and screw that in here. Sure to snug that up, and that will be your positive and your negative connection. And reinstallation is the reverse or removal. We're going to slide this pack back into place, get those 4 bolts back in, make our positive and negative connections back to these terminals here, plug in the battery control module with this orange plug, and there's some temperature connectors on this little white plug here. We're going to put that one back in, and then everything else should be pretty straightforward from there. Remember, the Torx bolts go around the side. There's one 10mm right here in the middle where the switch is. Once this battery's back in, the cover goes on, and then the 10mm bolt here, and then we'll have our switch here that will be ready to turn back on once we have all of those bolts in. And at that point, 2 bolts that take care of the cover that covers the IMA switch itself. So if you have any questions, send us an email, or hit us up on Instant Messenger or through our eBay account as well, High Performance Technologies.